Welcome, everybody, to the Ralph Graves Jr. Show. I am your host, Ralph Graves Jr., and I am so glad that you are here. I'm just glad that you chose to listen to this podcast, watch this YouTube video. No matter where you are right now or what circumstances you face, lasting success is within your reach. Now, on this podcast, we have real conversations with real people who have had to overcome some unthinkable obstacles to achieve their success. Are you ready? Are you ready? I know I am. On today,
Yes, sir.
Today's episode, today's podcast, we have the Gym Reaper, Anthony Jones. Man, welcome to the program, man.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. What's going on, guys?
Man, so glad to have you here, man. And you've been doing some great things. I have had an opportunity to speak into your life on several occasions, man. And I feel like a proud uncle, a proud papa sitting back watching one of his sons, one of his mentees do their thing, man. And I'm really excited about what you're doing. Kind of share with the people who Anthony Jones is. And I'm gonna talk to you about being unstoppable. Tell them who you are and what you're doing.
All right. So police officer full-time. Been an officer for about 5 years. Been a personal trainer for about 10 years. Recently just launched a business, personal training / fitness apparel business about 2 years ago. This year has been the year that we've really kind of like launched everything. Like to do a little bit of motivational speaking, anything just to, help people out. And I also do like a lot of online coaching as well. So I'm kind of like all over the place when it comes to like, what we do and how we do it. So which is the best way I think is to be, you know what I mean? So,
hey, man, and you do a fine job at what you do. As I'm adjusting my camera, you do a fine job, man, at what you do, man. And I'm proud of you, man. And I've seen different stages of your life, and I'm even wearing one of, I don't know if anybody can see it. If you're watching, I'm even wearing one of your Reaper shirts, man. Reaper Power, man.
Yes, sir.
So, I wrote this book, Unstoppable, man, and I have you on this podcast, man, because I view you to be a force that is unstoppable. What does it mean, or what does it look like for you when we talk about unstoppable? What does unstoppable look like for Anthony? What does that mean to you?
Being unstoppable is the days that you don't want to do anything, is getting up and, going after it. Because like you explained to me before, those are the days that really count.
Yeah.
So the days that you're really motivated, they don't really count, honestly. It's the days that you're really feeling down in the dumps. It's a pick me up. If you're able to pick yourself up, that's going to be the difference when it comes to, being unstoppable. Yeah. So me being unstoppable is the days that I'm just like, oh man, I don't feel like going to work, or I don't feel like, sending emails. I don't feel like, answering calls or training this person. And if you're able to pick yourself up, that is the moment you become unstoppable.
Yeah.
So that's the way I view things.
That's cool, man. And that's, you made a great point. It's easy to do things when we're motivated to do them in that moment.
Yep.
It's that other part, it's that grind. And, I read this today. I didn't read it today, but I kind of reminded myself today. Your biggest project, or you should be working on you're working on yourself harder than you're working on anything else. And when you're doing that, that really kind of puts you in a place of, I'm going to get up and go get it today. Man, God created us, right? And here's the thing, right? A tree. Let me talk about growth real quick.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask a tree, how high will you grow? It'll say as high as I can. It's only us human beings that have this thing called will, that in the middle of personal growth, or all of a sudden we stop growing and we never achieve. We don't become unstoppable. We never achieve our fullest because for whatever reason, we just stop growing. And I haven't seen that in you, man. I want you to keep on growing. And I do want to ask you this question, man. What was the process of perseverance like for you when you're building these things? Because what people, and I don't know if they heard in the introduction, you're a full-time officer. And this is what I kind of tell people, you got to finance the dream somehow.
Absolutely.
You walked in my footsteps. I was a police officer for 20 years. You got to finance the dream. I worked there long enough to get a pension. Hopefully you do so well you don't have to work as long as I did out in the streets, you know.
Yeah.
But what is the process of perseverance like for you? What is that process like for Anthony Jones and Reaper Fit and Jim Reaper? What is that process like for you?
So the process for me was, and this is something that's going to help people along the way. You actually brought this up on the podcast. I believe it was like last week or so. When you are trying to start something or you're getting into something, we have to stop putting a cap on things. Meaning we say, I want to do this. I want to earn this amount of money, every single month or whatever. And sometimes we kind of belittle ourselves.
Sure.
And we put a cap on our dreams. I want to start this business. I want to do this, and overthinking. So for me, I was overthinking things along the journey and saying, all right, I want to do this. I want to do this. And when you psych yourself out, you never do it.
Sure.
So I think the main thing to even, starting or, continuing your journey is like not to overthink things and just to go after it. You never know unless you do it.
Yeah.
So, it comes with failure, but guess what? You're never going to fail if you don't try it. So if you do try it, then you learn from it. It's process, it's a, error, you fix it, more error.
Yeah.
So you have to keep going, and you got to try in order to, build yourself up and to grow from that. And that's what my process was for that, for going forward.
And let me ask you, man, do you ever feel totally prepared when you step out and do something?
No.
Yeah.
I never. It's
a great answer.
It's funny because I look back 5 years ago when I was trying to start things, and I look at it now, and most people be like, "Oh man, I came a long way." But guess what? Next year, when I look back on this year, I'm gonna say, "Oh, I wasn't really far."
Right. Yeah.
No matter what, as you go forward, you look back and say, "I thought I was doing something," but you learn from that. And that's a good way to look at things, because if you're not looking back and saying that, then you're not growing. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
You're not really growing.
I think a lot of people make the mistake of, I have to be totally prepared before I step out and do something.
Absolutely.
I have to be perfect.
Absolutely.
You're not. You don't have to be flawless at it.
No.
Hey, man, you don't have to be flawless at it. And it takes some courage, and it's good to see you persevering through that, man. And I just wanted to, I wanted you to share that with folks, because so many people are just waiting.
Yeah.
That this has to be perfect.
Nothing will ever be perfect.
when did you first know? You got that right. When did you first hear this calling for this entrepreneurial spirit? When did you first hear this whisper? Were you younger? Did it just happen? I mean, when did you say, you know what? Just living the regular 9 to 5 isn't for me. And what did it take for you to really answer that call?
So a little backstory for me, age of 14, lost my father. I was still, I think I was in 9th grade, just starting high school.
Right.
Lost my pops. And at that age, I went through a lot of stuff. From 14 to 18, I lost 5 people that were near and dear to me. Yeah. My grandma, my grandpa, first child at the age of 18, lost my first child. So at the age of 18, I realized that, we can sit around all we want, complain and cry and say, God, why would you take this? Why would you take that? But I started learning that the things that we endure, we have to get through it because we're going to help somebody out. So my testimony is going to be somebody else's breakthrough. Yeah. And once I learned that, I realized that God equipped me with some things to get further in life so I can help people in return. And once I started to build myself up, and I started to realize that at the age of 14, that the things I was struggling with in the depression, there was all those things that built up. Took 5 people to, for me to lose 5 people to realize my true potential. Wow. And it was crazy. Yeah. And, once I lost those people, it was like almost like a diamond in the rough. I had to dig deep. And I said, you know what? One day I woke up and said, I need to change. At the age of 18, I said, you know what? Something's got to give. And from that moment on, I realized that I was destined for greatness. We all are destined for greatness, but one day you're going to wake up, you're going to realize it. For me, it took losing 5 people to realize I was destined for greatness. Sure. So once I realized that, I started pushing forward, and my life's been different ever since.
I think what a lot of us fail to realize is, too, that part of all of our journeys, loss is part of all of our journeys. In your case, it was
absolutely
5 loved ones, man. It was 5, but loss is part of it. You didn't wallow in it. You accepted that this is just part of the journey, and you pushed through it, man. That's a great testimony, man.
Yeah.
I want you to think about an obstacle. right? I
Mm-hmm.
know and you and I have had these conversations 100 times, so you probably don't have to think long. I want
Mm-hmm.
you to think about an obstacle that you thought was an obstacle, but after going through it, around it, over it, it created growth and reward in your life
Mm-hmm.
as you're doing the business. What was it? A shipping obstacle? Was it a how do I get my name out obstacle? What was the
Mm-hmm.
obstacle that at the time you're like, oh my God, this is an obstacle, but it turned out creating growth and reward in your life. Share that with us.
It's going to sound crazy and kind of cliche, but
No.
the biggest obstacle that I endured was believing in myself.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
and this goes out to a lot of people. We have all the tools. You can have X amount of money. You can have the network. You can have all these things lined up for you. But if you don't believe in yourself, you will never go anywhere. And that's the problem. So I looked at in the past where I was before I started working out, 115 pounds, 115 pounds out of high school. Yeah, it
All
was crazy.
ears, all
115
ears. I
pounds,
saw those
all
pictures.
ears, all
All
ears.
ears.
I grew into my head at the age of 25. So,
Right.
so I look back and I didn't have confidence
Yeah.
because I was still operating off the little man syndrome.
Yeah.
And until you have confidence and you start to believe in yourself and say, you know what, I am great. So I started working on self-affirmation. I woke up every day, I looked in the mirror and said, I am great. I am powerful. I'm going to do great things.
Wow.
And until I started to believe that, that's when everything started to come together. You don't need a lot of money to be great. You don't need a network to be great. You need to realize that you are great to be great.
Sure.
And once you realize that you are great, that's when you're going to do great things. So for me, that obstacle was believing in myself. And even though it sounds easier said than done, it took years. It took years for me to realize I was great. So it took years because I was caught up on the old end and instead of realizing the future end. So that was my obstacle.
Yeah.
Really believing that who I was and what I was destined to do.
And I think a lot of people have that obstacle about believing in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they won't bet on themselves. That's why they won't
Mm-mm.
write the check on themselves. That's why
Nope.
they might have an idea and they're afraid to share it because it's. I think we talked about it before. We called it imposter syndrome. Like, oh my God, I'm here. I have this great idea, doing some great things, but it's coming from me. I'm not qualified. I'm not good enough. I'm looking at all the things that are wrong with me. And that is an obstacle for a lot of people, man. And I like what
Absolutely.
you said, man, just really creating self-affirmations. And here's the funny thing. Nobody thought that about you. You thought that about yourself.
Absolutely.
We have this misconception that people think about us in the same light negatively that we think about ourselves.
Yep.
Some people around you really love. I guarantee you, there's a teacher in high school. I guarantee you there was somebody mentoring you. Hey man, when I first met you years ago, I knew that you were great. But it's funny that the biggest obstacle really is, a lot of times how we see ourselves, man.
Absolutely. And if you go through the course of the day, see, most people, I think they operate off of, I'm waiting for someone to give me a high five. So if you are waiting for someone to tell you you're great, you might as well just stay in bed.
Yeah.
So you have to believe in yourself. You have to understand that you are great. And
Right.
believe it or not, like when I was going through the FTO program, field training officer program for being an officer,
Right.
I was dealing with a lot. And in order for me to get through that program, because it was, you know how it is, it's stressful.
I
They
know
throw a
it
lot
is.
at you.
Yeah.
And in order for me to get through that program, I had to look in the mirror every day and say, you're great, you're powerful, you're going to do great things.
Okay.
That's what got me through it.
Yeah.
Not no education level, not because I know Joe Schmo down the street. I had to wake up and tell myself who I was and what I was destined to be. That's how I got through it.
You're talking about the law of mental equivalency. That's the chapter in my book, Unstoppable, is what I focus on basically is what I become.
Mm-hmm.
And you focused your energy on, no, I'm great. No, I can do this. And I think a lot of folks we have to really pay attention to that law. We got to pay attention to those things, man, because that can become a major obstacle in our lives, man. And I tell you, so let me ask you this. One of the strategies is that you said that to yourself daily. Did you write it down? Did you start a journal? Because right now this podcast is helping somebody deal with that right now. And they need to know
Absolutely.
exactly what you did. Did you write it down? Did you just say it? Who did you call? Who did you turn to? What did you listen to?
So one of the tips that I learned from you, because you've been my mentor for a few years, a
Yeah.
thought book. Invest
Right.
in a thought book.
Yeah.
Our minds, we process so many thoughts throughout the day that if we don't write them thoughts down, you'll never get them back.
Yeah.
So as I'm driving my patrol car, something will hit me, say boom, and I'll write it down.
Yeah.
And I'll go back on it later to reflect on that thought and say, wow, that was deep.
Yeah.
Because we think of so many deep things throughout the course of the day. And if you don't write that down, you will never get it back.
Sure.
So that's why I invested in. I still have that little brown book in my patrol bag, and I just write the stuff down. And if most people, if they pick that book up, it looks like Morse code because it's stuff
Right.
all over the place.
Yeah.
Only I can decipher what that means, that's the important part.
Yeah.
So that for me, it was writing stuff down in my book. I call it the thought book.
Yeah.
So.
There you have, ladies and gentlemen, get a thought book. Get a thought book, and he's right. Keep it close to you. Keep it in your car. Keep it. You know what? I get a lot of my stuff, Anthony. I get it in the middle of the night, like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
3 a.m. I'll wake up and I'll scribble something down. Like you said, only I know what it was.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And one thing about getting our thoughts together, would you agree? And I know what you mean about that patrol car, because sometimes it's really quiet. We can gather our thoughts in quiet spaces and quiet moments away from the noise. And I just want to encourage the listeners and the viewers, don't be afraid to get away from the noise. Gather your thoughts and write down what's been placed inside of you. I want you to get this, Anthony. I didn't say this to you before, but I'm saying this to you now. I'm saying this to the global listeners. Success is for purpose, not for status. Success, I need you to be wildly successful so that you can live out your purpose, which blesses the global community.
Absolutely.
Status is just a byproduct of it. A lot of people they want all these things to gain status. Forget status. Success is for purpose. It's for purpose, for you to live out your purpose, not for status. And when you live out your purpose, man, you'll bless the entire community. And when I say community, that's the global community. That's the world around you, man.
Absolutely.
And so I think sometimes, man, we got to get to that place of quietness and really write down those things that have been inside of us, man, and kind of work through and understand that the obstacle actually is placed there for growth and reward. Because right now, your self-esteem and as far as you believing in what you've been called to do has a new strength that it didn't have before.
Absolutely.
Hey, man, listen, how would you encourage others right now, man, to be unstoppable in their own lives? How would you encourage them?
So you got to just do it. I know it sounds crazy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's really not a lot, like a secret formula to, just being great. You just got to do it. Just wake up every day and say, I'm going to do something today.
Yeah.
Most people have all these dreams and they have all these goals, but it's like, if you keep them goals in your head, that's all it's going to be is a thought.
Yeah.
So it starts with a thought, then it starts with some action, some planning, and then you execute, fail. But if you don't do it, then it's never going to go anywhere. So just wake up and say, you know what, today I'm going to start that small business. I'm going to plan, but I'm going to execute. Yeah. So if you don't execute, it's never going to go anywhere. So just wake up and just go for it. Go for it and do it.
That falls right in line with what we said at the top of the show. I put out a truth boost today. Hey, if you guys don't, you can get my truth boost, something I put out every morning at 9:00. Text C3E to the number 313131. The biggest project you ever work on is yourself. Absolutely. Before your world changes, you have to change. Your world only changes when you change. And I like what you said, man. Just go out, grow, be great, take on the challenges, you watch your world begin to change. Man, listen, how can they find you? Listen, guys, I don't know if you know, if you follow him or you will follow him after today. Man, I'm so proud of you, man. You got like 10,000, 20,000 followers on YouTube, Instagram, your YouTube channel's doing great.
Yeah.
How can they contact you? Maybe somebody wants to continue this conversation with you. Maybe somebody just wants to, get some of the gear or even see you for some workouts. Give us everything right now on this podcast. How can they find Anthony Jones?
So the website is thegymreaper1.com. That's the main website where you can subscribe to our newsletter. Instagram is thegymreaper101, and Facebook is thegymreaper1. Everything revolves around the Gym Reaper 1 and 101. We have Snapchat, the Gym Reaper 101. We have Twitter. We have LinkedIn. We have TikTok. So we are on every platform as thegymreaper1.com.
Yeah.
That's how you can find us.
I think next time I'll have you come in and teach folks about branding, because you are
Absolutely.
certainly branding the Gym Reaper.
Keep it simple. You gotta keep it simple. If you want people to find you, you can't have 20 names.
No. And you can't have a ridiculous email. Let me share this. It's kind of funny. I put in people's emails. My team is working on people's emails. My daughter some of the emails names. Can you guys? I know that you created these emails when you were younger, but
yeah.
It's
time to let them go.
Yeah. Thick thighs 8120. It doesn't work anymore. You know what I'm saying? Fishnet 2121. No, let's be serious about who we are.
Absolutely.
And let's be the people we were called to be. I thought that was funny. I wanted to share that with you, man. But that's great branding, man. And thank you for taking the time to be on the show. And thank you for talking to us about your obstacles, about perseverance, man, about some self-affirmations and how they are important to you. Man, I'm proud of you, man. And I usually tell people, I tell people this. I see you one or two places. I either see you at the top or see you from the top. But brother, I know
Absolutely.
I will see you at the top, young man. I will see you at the top.
Yes, sir.
Guys, you've been watching the Ralph Graves Jr. Show. My guest today has been Anthony Jones, the Gym Reaper. I hope this show has blessed you. Hey, share it with somebody. Come back to this podcast, come back to this channel again, and we're going to have someone else with their story of success and their story of their journey of being unstoppable. Anthony, thank you for being on today, man.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem. Talk to you next time.